It's me, OGDuffy. Something very new and different for you guys today. Now, as you all know, we all have our own memories of our classic gaming days from our youth and early teens and early 20s and early 30s. You get the idea.
Who is this old fart?
And we also have them great memories of movies and that sort of stuff from our youth and from our past. Now, it's dawned on me, we might have all these great memories, but they're not always how we remember things. For example, I recently rewatched a few films and I thought, oh yeah, brilliant film. And I watched it and I was like, it's nowhere near as good as I remember, okay? And that got me thinking, well, surely a lot of the games of yesteryear we haven't played in a long time. So, what I'm going to do in this series, I'm going to be going back looking at games of yesteryear that I have very fond memories of. I am going to be playing that game, and alongside that game I am going to be referring to a review of the past on that title from a magazine. At the time, it was reviewed at the time. Then at the end I'll give my verdict, and whether I'll go through all the different areas like graphics, sound and all that, the same way they did in the magazines, and I'll give you my verdict as today, how it stands today, if it's lived up to the memories that I had of playing it back then. Because let's be honest, not all of them will. Some of them be like, oh my god, what did I see in that? And anyway, we will then finally announce if it's a hitter or a sitter. Now, if it's a sitter, it can stay on the bench. But if it's a hitter, we want it out there. Knock it out the park, so to speak. So without further ado, this week's game, to kick things off, we are looking at Bruce Lee on the ZX Spectrum. Here we go.
Bruce Lee was released by US Gold Software in 1985 for the grand total price of £7.95. This review comes from Crash Magazine, number 16, May 1985, which cost a total of 95p. The authors of this review for the magazine were Ron Fortier and Kelly Day. So another platform game, but this time based on the antics of the worldly hero of the East, Bruce Lee. Bruce has returned to the land of his forefathers to destroy a wicked wizard. Should he succeed, he will be rewarded with treasure beyond the capacity of his knapsack, which seems a bit of a shame. Bruce's first task will be to find his way into the underground chamber by discovering the secret entrance. I won't be giving much away when I tell you that this can be found in the floor of the middle entrance hall, but it will not open until Bruce has collected all of the lanterns from all three rooms. That's just to get into the underworld, where the real work starts. As Bruce makes his way across the other screens, he will face many bizarre dangers, which include electric charges that shoot across the gaps between platforms, or the awesome exploding Sing-Lin bushes that appear from nowhere. The most persistent and annoying of Bruce's problems go by the name of Green Yamo and the Ninja. These two characters devote themselves to Bruce's downfall. No matter where he is in the game, he will always be pursued by these two. For Bruce to be successful, the player must guide him through the fights as well as the maze. By giving the appropriate commands, Bruce can be made to duck, thump or kick. His flying kick is the most devastating. The other characters have the same ability, except they're unable to duck. Hard luck, Yamo. Bruce will survive 3 blows before he loses a life. His opponents will lose consciousness after 2 or 3 blows, which gives Bruce a brief respite to gather the lanterns and be on his way to find the button and kill the wizard. Points are awarded for collecting lanterns and laying out any of the opponents. 2,000 points are to be had simply for entering a new room. With every 30,000 points, a new life is given free. The total points scored for each player are shown at the top of the screen, together with the current highest score and the number of falls remaining before the game is over. One rather useful feature of Bruce Lee is that the game allows the player to compete against either the computer or other players. Apart from the first option of playing against the computer, a second option allows an opponent to assume the role of Yamo. Alternatively, a third option allows two players to take turns in being Bruce against the computer or with a third opponent as Yamo. Criticism. Bruce Lee is one of the best action-packed animated games on the market. The graphics are very detailed, lively and good looking. They add a bit of zest to the game. What makes this game different is that you play a key character actually fighting against the enemies who are ace kung fu artists. The way that Bruce punches, kicks and ducks is exceptionally good and terrific fun, simply to knock the stuffing out of your opponent. One of the strange things about this game is that when you leap, it looks like a trained ballet dancer. As the game progresses, it gets considerably more difficult. I must say that I found this game terrific fun. US Gold have really got the ingredients right this time. There's something about this game that makes me come back to it for more. In fact, it's one of the few games that I have ever bothered to complete, and the novelty still hasn't worn off. I think that Bruce Lee must be one of the most original games I've seen. It has well drawn and animated graphics which make up for the poor sound. I loved the way that you actually make physical contact with your enemy. Example, a punch on the nose or a kick in the ribs, instead of just zapping with a photon laser or phaser. The game gets a certain feel to it. I know, I'm a sadist. Another nice touch is the way the two opponents get into a fight if they get in each other's way. I really enjoyed playing Bruce Lee, and although it was easy to complete, I will keep playing it, just because I like beating up the nasties. Although Bruce Lee does not have the complexity or size of Jet Set Willy, you are constantly waging a battle with the green Yamo and the nasty ninjas. Fighting is achieved in typical Oriental style with several movement options: kick, chop, jump or duck. Initially this took a while to get used to. As you battle deeper into the palace, you encounter other dangers and hazards which are more typical of a platform game. These include electric charges, exploding plants and daggers. The sound and graphics are good. The game itself is very good and great fun. It's one of the most addictive I have played recently. Comments. Control keys: OP left and right, QA up and down, ZM chop or kick. Joystick is Kempston ProTech or Sinclair 2. Keyboard play well positioned and responsive. Use of colour very good. Graphics excellent. Sound nice tune but mainly spot effects. Skill levels 1. Lives 5 to 10 depending on number of players. Screens quite a lot. General rating excellent, fun packed game.
So there we have it, the Crash magazine review of the ZX Spectrum version of Bruce Lee by US Gold Software. Now, overall, a very good, fun, enjoyable game, and one I actually quite enjoyed revisiting. But let's go through all the sections that they did it and rated it, and let's see what I think. Firstly, use of computer. They gave it 85%. Let's be honest, we do know the Spectrum could be pushed and it could produce stuff far greater than this to look at, but it was enjoyable. In terms of the use of the computer though, I mean 85% I think is a little bit generous. I think there's other games that have really pushed this system and it's shown, you know. So I'm not going to go 85%, I would go 70 to 75%. I think that's a fair judgment on how far they've pushed this system, okay? I think that's what I'm going to go for with that one. Graphics, 90%. I'm going to knock it down, alright? What I liked about the graphics on this though, the positives are, it was themed. The the theming was really good, and I thought the level designs, everything were great, which we're coming to, but graphically it was alright. You could tell it was Bruce Lee by the silhouette and stuff. They gave it like 90%. I'm not going to give it 90 though. I think it's worthy of a 75% there, so I've knocked it down on both of them so far. Now we come to playability. They gave it 89% Crash Magazine. It's a really easy game to play. You can jump straight in. There's no, oh, got to learn this, got to learn that. The controls were simple. It was 5-6 buttons, up, down, left, right, a punch and a kick button, which pretty much perform the same function. So really easy playable, jump straight in, easy game to play. So 89%, I agree with that. I'd give it 90%. I've gone one up, one above and beyond. So now we come to the getting started section. I don't quite understand what they mean by this in the review, but I'm guessing they mean how easy it is to pick up and get into, you know. Now, as I just said to you guys, it's a really good, easy to get into game. And I think, what did they award it? I think they gave it 80%. So I think on base of that, 80%, it's, for me, it's probably 95% because it's so easy. You just, anyone can go straight into this game. I could give this to a 6-year-old and say, right, these are the keys, this is what you do, you know, and I think they'd grab it. In joystick, even easier, of course, you know. So it's a 90 from me on that one. I've upped it. Addictive qualities. They awarded it 92%. I'm going to agree with that actually, but I'm going to, you know, I like round them. I like to round it up, keep it nice, you know. Let's go for 90. I'm going to round it down to 90. It is an addictive game. It's very easy to get into. Pick it straight up, as I've said. So I agree with you guys there. Yeah, good shout. Next up, value for money. Crash Magazine gave it 85%. So back in 1985, this game was £9.95. Yes, a whole £9.95, brand new off the shelf. But with inflation, looking at the inflation calculator I use, that's the equivalent of £24.90 today. So back then, it was a tenner, so it was the equivalent of a £25 game. Yeah, I would have said it was good value for money because it was a good title. It was thoroughly playable, thoroughly enjoyable, and you have to remember it was 1985 after all. And finally, their overall result was 91%. I really enjoyed the game overall. I thought the platform design levels were brilliant. They were probably the most enjoyable part, the platforming section. But the biggest downfall with Bruce Lee is how easy it is. I mean, I haven't played it in years, since my youth, and I've replayed it, as you saw in the video there. And after 3 or 4 games, I finished the game. And bear in mind, I haven't played it in years and years and years. That's quite not an achievement because it shows how easy the game actually is. So in terms of the value for money and everything else and rolling everything in, that let it down a little bit. But you know what? Would I go back and play it again? Yes, I would. It was thoroughly enjoyable. So for me, is it a hitter or is it a sitter? This ZX Spectrum game of Bruce Lee by US Gold from 1985 is a hitter. Brilliant little game, great fun to play, even to this day, especially the platform levels. I think where the characters you attack and all that, there's not so much no kung fu involved really. It's more just a platform game. You just jump and you literally jump through them and their attacks don't really hurt you. But really enjoyable. So a great one here. Now if you guys got any suggestions at home, right, let me have them. What games do you want me to see reviewed from our past? Good and bad. And I'm going to compare them to the magazine reviews at the time like we have done today, alright? So that'd be quite interesting. Most systems, any game title you got, drop them in the comments. Now, as always, thanks for the video, thanks for watching and all that stuff. You're great at what you do. And hit the like and do all that nice things. And if you don't already do so, hit that subscribe button because you know it makes me happy. Anyway, I've been OGDuffy. You guys have been awesome as always. Till next time.